You've never heard that term? No? Okay. So, my office manager is going to ask some random questions about health stuff. You're going to ask, and I'm going to answer without any editing. So okay. Ask away. Do you have any questions?
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, I got to think about this for a second. Okay. Let's see.
This might be a slow video.
Yeah. You don't have it on yet, do you?
I do have it on.
You do have it on?
You're being recorded, just like how Blue Cross says, or Anthem says, we're recording you for quality control.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
They're never recording you.
Okay.
Because if anything bad happened, they would erase it.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody else has this question, but how often would a person's like low back or like their hip go out? How often does that happen?
How often does a person's hip go out?
Yes.
That's going to be totally variable on the individual problem. So for example, my hips never go out. Ever. Not once in my life.
Is there something that you do to keep that from happening?
Yes, there's a tremendous amount of things.
Like what?
It's called one thing, the school of luck.
Ah.
Okay, so unfortunately, some people never have any type of misalignments of their hips. Other people have problems. Mm-hmm. Usually it's because of either a couple things. It's either their God-given anatomy, just the way their body is shaped. Okay. The second thing is, most importantly, old injuries. So if you had an old injury or an old trauma or an old strain to a hip, then it's more prone towards having problems in the future.
Okay.
So if I've never had a problem with my hip and my anatomy is, I just happen to be one of those lucky people that don't have anatomical problems with my hip, I don't have problems. It never goes out. So it's kind of like how some people have knee problems for their entire life, and other people can run to be, they're 100 years old and they're running and they don't have problems. It's usually genetics and old injuries, lack of old injuries.
Okay.
I have no idea if that was the question you were asking.
No, yes, that's fine.
But that's why it happens.
And as far as the knees are concerned,
all right,
does weight contribute to your knees hurting?
Okay, that's a good question. The answer is yes in theory. However, this is a problem with patients, because you get a person who comes in here that's 350 pounds and he has knee pain. Everybody's going to blame the knee pain on his weight, right? That works wonderfully because you can blame the patient regarding their weight. You can say, well, of course your knees hurt. You're 350 pounds. All that weight is crushing your knees. That works until 20 minutes later, a runner comes in and she weighs 120 pounds. Okay. And she's got knee pain. Now what the hell do you tell them? You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, if you took that person that was 120 pounds and they gained 80 pounds, so now they're like over 200 pounds, their knee, which already hurts, is going to hurt worse. So if you have a knee problem and you add weight to it, it's going to hurt worse than if you lost weight.
Okay.
But just because someone's 350 pounds doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to have knee pain. And that's of course what everybody doesn't want to hear. We want to hear that if we don't smoke, if we eat right, and we don't weigh a lot, we'll never have knee pain. Not true. So ironically, there's a guy on YouTube. He's like Mr. Famous on YouTube. He's a knee over toes guy. Everybody loves him. Okay. He's never been fat in his life. But he's had terrible knee pains when he was young. And he did exercises and he's promotes his exercise and he has no knee pain now. Okay. But he's heavier now than when he used to have knee pain because he was younger.
Okay.
So if you were to take someone with knee pain, and let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 3 out of 10, and say, okay, gain 80 pounds, it's probably gonna hurt worse. Okay? But just because someone's heavy doesn't necessarily mean every heavy person has knee pain. So all thin people don't live in some utopia where they don't have knee pain. That's the unfortunate thing, is that does weight cause knee pain? The answer is no. Usually knee pain is from something else, and the weight adds to it. It makes it worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, you know, if you want to, someone could argue that if someone's 350 pounds at 20 years old, by the time they're 60, are they going to have more knee pain than if they were 180 pounds at 20 years old and maintain 180 pounds till they were 60?
All right.
There's just more strain on the knee. So one could argue that, but for the most part, blaming weight on the knees is hard to do, because when you get thin patients, you have nowhere to go.
That's not the issue. Okay.
And
all right.
personally, that was always my problem, was I would injure myself, go to the medical doctor, and they were confused as to why my knee hurt. Well, I don't know, you're thin, you shouldn't really have knee pain. And it's this idea that only big people get knee pain. It just never worked.
I always knew that it would probably, if you had an issue with your knees already, the weight was going to make it worse.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if, you know, especially if somebody is obese and you've got all that weight.
Yeah. Obese is a funny word because it depends.
Yeah.
Like, what does obese mean? Well, what weight do we call someone obese?
That's a good question.
Okay, so this is a good question.
That's a good question.
So
yes.
what weight would you say is obese? Let's say someone's 5'10".
Oh, wow.
This is a trick question, by the way.
Oh, well.
Give me a weight. It's 5'10".
Well, let's see. Well, I have a friend that's almost that height.
Okay.
And I wouldn't call her obese. I mean, I think she's probably about 30 pounds overweight, but that's not obese to me. Okay. I would say for her, if she weighed like...
Can we just say 300?
If she weighed like 250.
All right, well, 250.
I would say that she would be obese.
Okay, so I'm taking a fishing line and I'm fishing for an answer, and then I'm going to hook it here. But what if she's into CrossFit? And what if she's 15% body fat? Okay, a lot of these bodybuilders, like the ugly ones, the you know, type of thing, like Lou Ferrigno was over 300 pounds at one point.
Yes.
But he was like 4% body fat.
Yes.
So is he obese?
No.
Well, he's over 300 pounds though, right? So the weight doesn't always mean obese. It's the percent body fat.
Okay, now what if the person doesn't work out at all? They hate it.
Well, okay, if someone hates it.
They do nothing.
Well, okay, then what's the question? If someone doesn't like it.
Is 250 pounds obese?
Well, it depends. That's the thing. Instead of looking at the scale, look at what percent body fat they are.
I would say it's high.
It is high. Usually, statistically, it's going to be high. It's just going to be high. Because if a person is not going to work out, okay, and they're 250 pounds, and they're 5'2", let's make it really bad.
Okay.
All right. Statistically, you're not going to see much in the way of a low percent body fat. So the answer is 250 would be too heavy. But the point is that when you look at the scale, it's hard to judge it just based on the scale. Because if I get on the scale and I weigh 150 pounds, does that mean I'm healthy? Well, it depends. If you're 4 years old, 150 pounds, you're probably not healthy.
Correct.
If you're 30 years old, 150 pounds, 5'10", chances are you're not obese.
Okay.
Okay. So the number, it's hard to say 200 pounds or 250 or 350 is obese. So when we say obese, we want to think of what percent body fat they are.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Do you have any questions on diabetes or high blood pressure? Because that's what everybody wants to hear about.
That's what they want to hear
That's
about.
what they want to hear about. Is that what you
Well-
want to hear about? You want to hear diabetic questions or
Okay, well-
high blood pressure?
Well,
All right, go ahead.
I've noticed that yours are all high blood pressure.
They're all high blood pressure. Why?
I have low blood pressure.
Yes.
I have always had low blood
Yes,
pressure.
and we have a
That is-
couple patients in our office right now that have low blood pressure.
But I have no symptoms from it. I mean,
Well, you're
I'm
not gonna have
I
symptoms.
don't get dizzy.
Right.
I can give blood and I don't pass out.
Okay.
So, I mean, do you ever get any questions about people that have low blood pressure and what they can do to make it go up?
Yeah, I get patients who come in with low blood pressure who want higher blood pressure.
Okay.
But on YouTube,
It's all high blood pressure.
if I make a video about low blood pressure, I'm going to get this many views. And
Okay.
YouTube is all about views.
Okay.
Right? So if I just take my shirt off and show my abs or something like that,
Right.
everybody goes like excited and they watch my video. If I put a woman on the video, everybody gets excited and they watch that.
Okay.
But actually some people hate that.
Well, high
They
blood
don't like
pressure
that.
now.
But low blood pressure, let's stick with low blood
Okay.
pressure. All right, so we have patients that have low blood pressure.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to figure out, well, what the heck are you eating? Number one, okay? And these are people that they're allowed to eat salt. Salt is a 4-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's afraid to put salt on their food because they're afraid that it's bad for them.
Right.
But actually people with low blood pressure can raise their blood pressure a little bit by adding salt to taste.
Right.
So don't be afraid of salt.
Okay.
Secondly, the majority of the time, people on low blood pressure, at least in our office, a lot of them are on diets. It's crazy diets. So they just forget, they don't eat in the morning and they don't do this and they're starving themselves to try to, the most extreme is we had one patient, he ate once every 3 days. Okay, now that's taking things to extreme.
Yes.
Okay, however, to answer your question, your blood pressure is set to a certain range just simply by genetics.
Okay.
So do you know what a bell curve is?
Yes.
Okay, so some people are on this side of the bell curve, some people are on this side of the bell curve. These are all considered normal or should be considered normal. You just happen to be on this side of the bell curve.
All right.
So be thankful doctors aren't throwing 3 or 4 or 5 drugs at you to try to lower your blood pressure to make it look good on paper.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
But the thing is that since your blood pressure is low, right, and you don't really have any ill effects from it, then we shouldn't try to change it. Because that's where you are on the bell curve, and that's where your healthy set point is.
Right.
But if you were starting to get real dizzy, you started to stand up real quick and you got dizzy, or you were passing out, or you had no energy, these types of things, then we could say, okay, well, blood pressure is a component, could be a component of that. Why is your blood pressure so low?
Yeah.
So let's say you have low blood pressure. You don't have low blood pressure. You have your blood pressure.
Yes.
It just happens to be low compared to the average American who's on 3 or 4 different medications.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yours is considered low. You go to the doctor, and you don't get white coat syndrome.
No.
You know what that is?
No.
You don't know what white coat syndrome is?
No. Never heard that term.
I'm gonna do the Charlie Brown thing.
Okay.
Okay, white coat syndrome is where you go to the doctor and you get a little nervous, and so your blood pressure, especially systolic, goes
okay.
up a little.
Okay.
So you get, you're excited or you're nervous or upset or something like that. So you don't get that, so your doctor goes, wow, no blood pressure problems. We're not going to put you on medication, so they just kind of push it off.
So like when I took my blood pressure when I was watching the Dodger games and they were losing,
Right,
I
that's a
noticed
problem.
that it kind of went up.
It will go up. The Dodgers are a significant reason why most people in Los Angeles have high blood pressure. There was a spike that year. Yes. All right, so
Okay, now, diabetes.
diabetes, yes.
1 or 2 is the worst.
Well, that's like saying which type of poison is the worst. There is no worst.
Well,
So-
does one require insulin and one doesn't?
Yeah, so, well, yes. So the thing is, type 1, generally speaking, you're born with it, okay? Your pancreas is not secreting insulin, and you can get very sick. So type 1 is, if you want to say which one is worse, type 1 is worse in the sense that your pancreas is not working at all. Now, type 2 is the type that we develop by eating crappy food.
Okay.
Okay. So if we eat enough crappy food, our body will become so resistant to the metabolism of insulin and blood sugar that our pancreas just can't even keep up, or the cells won't even be, they'll be resistant to allowing the insulin to get the sugar in. So what this basically means is we can develop, if you and I decided right now, let's have a contest. Let's see which one of us can develop type 2 diabetes first. What we would both do is we both go to a fast food restaurant and eat there every day and see which one of us loses. Okay? But neither of us could say, let's have a competition of which one can get type 1 first. Okay?
No, that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. But it actually can, in a way that if type 2 diabetes gets so bad, your pancreas just shuts down, you can actually become a type 1. So we have a friend, he's 50-something years old, and he developed type 1 diabetes late in life. That's somewhat rare. But most type 1 diabetes are, like when you think of a little kid getting diabetes, and he's only 6 months old or 1 year old,
right.
That's type 1, as a
Okay.
general rule.
Wow.
Because most 2-year-olds are not sucking down McDonald's every day.
So type 2 is controlled by what you put in your mouth.
Yeah, we want to find the person who has type 2 early on. If we can find a person with type 2, scare the crap out of them and say you're going to die, and motivate them to change their diet.
Right.
Maybe exercise a little. You know,
Yes.
you could totally reverse type 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can't reverse type 1. That's the confusion. Is so when people watch my videos and say, "Oh, I'm going to change my diet because I'm diabetic." Well, if you're type 1, you still got to take insulin.
Well, basically, if you're type 1, you would have had, like, I had an uncle that had juvenile diabetes.
Okay, juvenile diabetes
type 1.
is type 1.
Yes.
That's the old
And
term.
He always had to take insulin.
Correct.
But you know how some people, when they're on insulin, sometimes it takes them a while to get their body regulated?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Well, with him, he never had that issue. It's like he was very fortunate that, and I don't know if it's because he just always had it, and so he was started at whatever age.
Type 1 diabetics are usually extremely smart
But he was very
at controlling
disciplined.
it. Well, if you're disciplined, you can live a normal life.
He ate what
Yeah.
he was supposed to. He ate exactly the same time every day,
Correct.
and he never had an issue.
Right. And a type 1 diabetic, if you catch them early, they can live a normal, healthy, happy life.
Right.
They just have to take some insulin.
And
They're
how
just
about-
like you and me, except their pancreas doesn't work the way ours works for now, until we eat crappy food. But those are the differences.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. 2 more questions.
Well, I don't know if this is considered a health issue. Well, I guess it was. It messes up your back. I've heard you talk about lat hangs.
Okay. Hanging upside, hanging.
Well, you know how
hanging from the bar.
you're hanging from the bar.
Correct.
So, what part of your back does that help?
Okay, so
What is
so
that doing for you?
I'll tell you. So the question is, what about hanging from a bar versus hanging upside down?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the patients that we have, I don't want them hanging upside down for a couple of reasons. The first is many people have had knee replacements and hip replacements, and you don't want to be hanging from those artificial body parts. It's
Okay.
just, it's not that it's not smart, it's that it's stupid. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that.
Right.
Second thing is, many people have high blood pressure, diabetes, a history of TIAs, okay, transient ischemic attacks, which is like a tiny stroke, and you don't want them hanging upside down and all the blood rushes to their brain, lights out, stroke, they're dead. It's happened. So a better way to stretch the spine would be to hang from a bar, or at least hold on to a bar, hold on here, and like traction. So which part of the spine are you working? Half of your middle back and your lower back.
Okay.
Okay, the reason why is because the latissimus dorsi, which is a muscle right here that people think of, it actually connects to half of your middle back and all of your lower back and your pelvis, and it connects to the front of your arm. So when you hang, okay, and I'm not saying everybody has to hang a dead hang. You can actually have a little bit of your feet on the ground to just allow, let me see, yeah, just allow them at the door frame. Don't do this to your door frame, because if you weigh a certain amount, you'll pull the door frame, and then your wife will get mad at you and then make you paint above the door frame. I'm talking about a friend, not me. That happened to me. Anyway, you hang like this and you just pull, and it feels really good, and there's very little risk of injury to your ankles, your knees, your hips. No, you're not going to raise your blood pressure, because when you hang upside down, you raise your blood pressure.
And you do it for how long?
Well, that's the thing. Everybody's different.
Okay.
So most people can't hang for very long. Intervals, meaning hang for 10 seconds, relax, hang for 10 seconds, relax, but you want to build up to, like, if you can, a minute.
Oh, okay.
A minute would be awesome. So I do this a lot when I ride my bike. If I ride my bike for a long period of time, on my way home there's a park, and I will just stop at the park, hang, and it feels really good after riding my bike.
Wow.
So it decompresses the spine.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start doing that.
You can start doing it. It's
Now,
good for you.
I'm curious about this. I don't know if anybody else has ever asked you about this. When people have TMJ, how does that affect, like, their neck?
Screws them up.
Back? Oh.
Royally. It just screws them up. The jaw is what's called neuro rich, meaning the TMJ, the jaw right in front of your ear, actually plays a role in many things, not just the movement of our jaw, but it plays a role in our balance. Okay, we've all seen movies or real life boxing where the guy gets hit in the jaw and is just knocked out cold.
Yes.
Okay. There are nerves that come from the neck to the jaw. Okay, so they're connected in that way. There's muscles that go from the parts of the jaw to the different bones, like the hyoid bone and the cervical spine, things like that. And so the jaw, the upper cervical neck, spine, okay, and our feet are very important for balance.
Yes.
Okay, so typically in our office, when I adjust someone's jaw, I'm trying to have an effect on either balance or headaches, because it's usually what people are complaining of. They get headaches in the temple, they get pain here, they get pain in the neck, and very often if you analyze how they open and close their jaw, it could be a jaw misalignment.
Oh, very interesting.
And so it's not something that's I do 20 times a day, but it's something I might do, I don't know. Last week I think I did it twice. And it's not that big of a deal. Like a jaw adjustment, you think, oh my God, how does he adjust a jaw? Gently. That's how we do it. It's not, we're not doing a ring dinger or putting a strap on people's jaw. That's all that stuff is ridiculous.
Is it ever?
It's very gentle.
Is it ever, like, dislocated?
So the question is it a dislocation? So a dislocation is different than a subluxation. A subluxation is just a minor, small discrepancy in how it moves. It's still attached. A dislocation would literally be your jaw is over there. So your jaw is over here.
Okay.
Okay? That's different than it's still here, it's just not moving well.
Now, is that something that a chiropractor can?
No.
That's something. So okay.
No, you're knocked out cold and you're on a stretcher and you're in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're having major reconstructive surgeons dealing with you. And you're not asking for turmeric or any type of alternative healthcare pain reliever.
Okay.
No. You want the most addictive drug known to man injected into your veins now. But the good news is you're not speaking because your jaw is over there.
Yes.
It's dislocated. So they're just putting it in your vein and knocking you out. And going to hopefully try to find your jaw in some field or wherever you left it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
All
dislocated
right.
jaw is that's a bad day. Yeah. in theory, things like that can happen. I guess I've never seen a dislocated jaw because they don't come into us. They don't come in to see us.
No.
But a jaw that's not moving well, a subluxation, that stuff we see pretty frequently. And usually the typical symptom that people have is they're getting headaches. They describe the headache as like this over here. It comes to their eye. You analyze their spine. Maybe there's spine subluxations, but there's also could be a jaw. And it's a very simple test. You just have them open and close your jaw, and you watch how the jaw deviates. And most people's jaw opens pretty perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always been curious about that. So.
Yeah. If I ever remember, if I do an adjustment on jaw, we'll go in there and you can see it. But you'll probably go, that was it. It's not very exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
you'll probably want to just go to YouTube, some other channel, and watch some other guy's videos where they use microphones. But no, it's very gentle. All right. Hope you guys
All right.
learned something.